the United Cities Empire. Thousands of years ago it had ruled the entire world. Its cities and machines towered over the lands, and its people enjoyed such bounties that few thought of ever returning to Earth. These days, of course, Earth has been entirely forgotten, but for really the opposite kind of reason. The Empire still has its Emperor though, and today that Emperor will receive a visit from his exiled son, Nuke Tashino. "Who's there?" Emperor Tengu demanded when Nuke strode into the tiny undecorated throne room of the rusty Imperial Palace. "Don't worry, Dad, I'm not here to stay," Nuke told him. "What?" "I said I'm not here to stay." "Who the hell are you?" "I'm your son, Nuke. Remember?" "My son? Oh, the Green Man." "Yep, that's what they all call me, isn't it? Do you literally not know my name?" "I know your name, and I know your game. That's why I hereby declare that you are exiled." "Thanks, Dad. Man, you took all of it, didn't you?" "Took? Who said a single thing about took?" "Incredible. Absolutely incredible, Dad. You're an inspiration." "Don't come back until you've got more. But between you and me, don't take it yourself. It's illegal, I heard." Cool. So yeah, I'm actually going to leave you forever now, Dad. Going on an adventure with this scale mail pervert. Probably gonna die and stuff, in case you wanted to. Emperor Tengu's blank expression was unchanging as Nuke let the silence hang. Then, without warning, he slumped forwards off the throne and rolled over to Nuke's feet. Skeleton wizard," he coughed, holding out a wet tissue with something concealed within. "No, it's me, Nuke," the prince insisted. Tengu looked up at him with desperate eyes. "Find the skeleton wizard. This is the key. Save the Empire, Nuke." Nuke inspected the offered key. It was a slobbery fruit stone with a fragmenting, papery residue stuck to it from its time in the Emperor's pocket. "So, you smoked my whole supply." "Skeleton wizard." "Cool. Off to go die in the desert now, Dad. See ya." And with that, Nuke was about to storm out and leave the city at once, but that way he'd be leaving empty-handed, or he would have been if the all-important green fruit pip hadn't encrusted itself onto his palm. Instead, he slipped behind a screen to the palace storeroom, and amid the din of the palace guards trying to restore the Emperor's consciousness, he stole as much ceremonial sake and lacquer as he could stow in and about his person. Then, with his head held high and with clattering, sloshing steps, he transported his going-away present to the caravansary at the north end of town, where Wadston and Isaiah were arguing over a matter of professionalism. "You employed me as a corpse carrier," Isaiah was saying. "Of course I need to practice in a controlled environment. That's the key to success." "I understand and appreciate your enthusiasm, but please think of our image." "Image? Well, of course I'm thinking of our image. Want a corpse carried? Who do you call? The corpse-carrying guy. Everyone knows that. This stingy piece of work is our storefront, in a sense." Wadston was distracted from replying by Nuke opening the bag on the doctor's back and transferring various objects into it from his pockets, armpits, and beyond. "Prince Tashino, you return," Isaiah said. "I suppose we shall continue our debate on our desert walk, Mr. Wadston?" "Mr. Wadston," Nuke sneered as he finished up. "Is everything in order, my prince?" Wadston asked. "Yep. Dad's gone deep dive. Said I should go find a skeleton wizard." "A skeleton wizard?" Isaiah mused. "I've met a skeleton, and I've met a wizard. But a skeleton wizard? That is quite the task indeed." I should interject here to tell you that when he says skeleton, he isn't referring to human bones. The word meant something rather different to these people. but I'll let you discover exactly what for yourself as we go along. As for him saying he met a wizard, well, your guess is as good as mine on that one. So, Wadston, I've got a credit management question, Nuke said. Say I managed all the credit from the Imperial Palace. If I was to liquidate that credit in the town, people would probably ask for receipts, wouldn't they? And that means to fully realise the value of my portfolio. I don't know, Wadston. Look, I stole a bunch of crud from Dad. Isaiah, take me somewhere to sell it on the sly.
I don't entirely understand, but the markets of Shobatai are the place to buy and sell anything,
Isaiah said. Is it, like, close?
A few days north. The crossroads of the Great Desert it is. And... what? What are you looking at? It's mine!
Isaiah's horns perked up when he saw Nuke staring at the corpse on his shoulder. Nuke suddenly ran over to the wall of a nearby shop, then returned with a torn-off poster showing a drawing of a face. After a quick inspection, he said, Isaiah, you madman! You've got a fucking famous terrorist here! Wait, wanted alive. Wanted a damn live. Oi, you ungrateful dreg, be alive! Nuke slapped the face of the weight-training woman on Isaiah's shoulder, and she suddenly squirmed to life.
By Okran, it's alive! How embarrassing!
Isaiah said as a struggle commenced. Keep her steady, you oaf, she's made of money! Help him, Wadston! To the local police station, go, go! The jostling quartet of bodies kicked up sand all the way to the desk of the local police chief, at which point the cussing, screaming terrorist was exchanged for a rack of copper coins that weighed almost as much. Now that's what I call travel money. We barely even need to rob the palace with you around, Nuke said cheerily to Isaiah. Regrettably, they were still at the police chief's desk. Oh, don't worry. We in the business call credit management robbery sometimes. Little joke, you know. Did I ever tell you that I'm the Prince of the Empire? The stolen goods were ferried out of the police station with only a modest case file being opened on the purloining prince, and the team spent the evening buying the outdoor adventure gear they'd need for their smuggler's hike. The next morning they assembled at the north gate, sporting rucksacks, sleeping bags and weapons. Following expert roamer Isaiah's advice, they were waiting for enough travellers to gather so they could form a caravan to Shobatai, the next settlement down the ill-defined desert road. Look guys, Nuke called to the others. He was pulling a black shirt from a still warm corpse behind a nearby dune. He cut it up a little with his sword and wrapped it around his head. I'm a ninja! Isaiah! Can you see me?
A resourceful little cringe beetle he is,
Isaiah noted, and Wadston could not help but agree, albeit with a warm smile. Soon a group of armed men set out north, so Nuke and crew fell in behind them. As long as they all stayed together, the skimmers would leave them alone. Simple as that, Isaiah explained. Nuke was pretty sure he got the idea, but he was also pretty sure that a body he saw beside the road a few hours later had a shirt more his size. Nuke woke up the next day in a dark, dusty room. His chest was extremely painful and was wrapped in reddened bandages.
Wadston!
He called out. In reply, there was a bark, and a dog started sniffing around him. Oh man, how much of that was a dream? Is this the palace?
Not the palace, Prince Teshino,
came Isaiah's voice. He was standing beside the bedroll that Nuke was lying on, sanding an apparently homemade workbench that took up the majority of the room.
This is the headquarters of Wadston's private healthcare guild.
Cool. So you're saying that actually this is a dream?
Not as far as I am aware.
But you are aware that Wadston is literally a dog now?
What? Oh no, that's the newest member of the family, Kelsey. She's a guard dog. Isn't she nice?
Yeah, I guess. Making money then, are we?
Indeed. In fact, I was thinking of writing a report on the non-consensual private healthcare market to present to the Traders Guild down in the Edge, should we ever head that way.
Wait, we were going to Shobatai, I remember.
And what happened on the way?
Oh, shit. Nuke slumped back painfully onto his bedroll as memory was restored to him. The caravan moved on, the skimmers moved in, and the rest was better off forgotten.
That's just what it's like out there in the desert, Isaiah said. Lucky I saw it coming and got you out of there in one piece, roughly speaking.
Yeah. So, I owe you my life then, or something?
I'm afraid so.
Alright. How much do you want?
Sorry?
I'm going to repay you, man. Can't just leave this hanging.
You've already repaid me,
Isaiah said with a smile.
Kelsey here didn't come cheap, you know.
Always one step ahead, aren't you, pale scales? Indeed he was. The prince took another day to rest while his industrious underlings carried out the business that an unconscious Nuke had invested a lot of money into, so it seemed. Non-consensual investment for a non-consensual enterprise, one could say. Once he was up and about, Nuke saw how the new business was in the very shadow of the Imperial Palace, and at once he demanded that they go on another adventure. That's why he, Wadston, Isaiah and Kelsey were hanging around the northern gate again the next morning, looking for another group to travel with. "You're going to show Bataille? Who was just saying that?" a voice said. A grimy woman appeared from beside the guard post, and very deliberately didn't look at Nuke. "Me, right here," Nuke said. The woman's smile faded as she confirmed it really had been the man with a torn-up t-shirt wrapped around his head. "Oh, right. Okay, you're Nuke Tashino, right?" she asked. "Yep, Prince Tashino, Prince of everything and more. How did you know it was me?" "The House of Heft has worn that pattern of silk since the Red Rebellion." "Really? I thought it was just me and Dad." "Well, yes, you... Never mind, you're going to show Bataille." "Yeah, ninja business, so don't ask." "Ogren's bloody beard. Do you have a... carer, manager or something?" "Oh, you must mean Wadston." "Wadston! Convince her to join the caravan, my man. She's too intimidated by me, you know?" This woman, Izumi, claimed to have been part of an archaeological team that had recently disbanded in Heft after finding little of value in their digs. She, though, was convinced that they were on the verge of a breakthrough. The infrastructure that supported the Shobutai Reservoir was located by a prior expedition, but it was never fully examined. Ancient structures, perfectly preserved in the sand. The technology, the information there is beyond measure, I know it. There could be evidence of what caused the fall. The rest of them think I'm mad, and the feeling is mutual. Anyway, I'm going to inspect the ruins at Shobutai and to look for a sponsor to excavate them.
I could sponsor you, Miss Izumi,"
Wadston said, less pale than usual. "Would you? Are you interested in history, sir?"
"Oh yes, I've lived through most of it, in fact."
"If only. You'd be the most advanced skeleton I've ever seen." Wadston considered that sentence to have been a flirtatious compliment, and that is why we are better off leaving the truth of history to be discerned by experts. It all worked to Izumi's favour though, as now her expedition was officially sponsored by the Wadston Private Healthcare Guild, technically a division of the Tashino Credit Management Guild as of a few hours prior. Izumi joined the crew as they set off with a large merchant caravan back down the road to Shobutai. Such a large group was ignored by the skimmers eagerly waiting on the ridges overlooking the route. They weren't ones to bite off more than they could chew, not that they needed to chew what they bit. However, if you remember what I told you about Heft, you might recall that skimmers weren't the only danger lurking on its outskirts. As the caravan column marched into a sandy gully, a group of shadowy folk appeared on its flank. They approached the rear of the column, not in any rush, and the caravanners thought they had opportune customers. Then weapons were drawn, and all hell broke loose. These attackers were from one of the many rebel groups still fighting throughout the desert for an end to the rule of the noble houses, and for the end specifically of Emperor Tengu and his boy, Nuke Tashino, who stood awkwardly as the caravan guards battled the rebels all around him. "What the fuck is all this then?" the prince exclaimed, grasping the ninja sword he knew not how to use.
"No sense taking risks, Prince Tashino,"
Isaiah called.
"We should all... Wait! Kelsey!"
Kalsi had been barking away at the attackers and chased a couple of them around the dunes until finally one had landed a cut across the poor girl's head.
Right, never mind. We're fighting!
Isaiah roared, heaving up a chunky sword and lunging into the melee. Bloody hell. He's gone full Shek on us. History girl, go get the fucking dog, Nuke ordered. Oh, right. Azumi rushed out into the chaos of battle to retrieve Kalsi. A rebel attacked Nuke, and he did his best to deflect a string of blows. Oppressor! The rebel was screaming. How do they always know who I am? Nuke said, finding relief when one of the caravan guards struck his assailant down with a heavy staff. Robe, you idiot! Azumi huffed as she returned. Kalsi was now in her arms. Seeing the blood-soaked fur on the dog's face, Isaiah gave a great shout and cut one of the rebels in two with a single slash. Another came up and began a duel with both Isaiah and Nuke at once, although really Nuke was just dancing about and making threatening sounds. By now, Wadston had prepared his special weapon, the crossbow he'd taken from that naked ninja on his first day as a freelancer. He aimed carefully, but his vision wasn't as good as it had been. Isaiah stumbled as a bolt stabbed into his ankle. Please, Wadston! Nuke shouted. He slashed about with his sword to get the attention off Isaiah. The crossbow twanged again, and a bolt slammed into Nuke's back. Wadston! He roared, actually cutting the rebel down in his fury and turning around to snatch the bow from Wadston's hands.
It wasn't at all deliberate, my prince, I assure you.
Wadston was quick to protest, with one hand held out of view behind his back. Nuke looked around and saw that the battle was over. The attackers had fled, and the caravan guards were already moving on. By the time the guild had managed the credit from the fallen, they were all alone. Wadston saw to their injuries, and Azumi proved handy with a bandage too. Isaiah didn't even notice the pain, staring down at an unconscious Kalsi in his arms. We'll get them, man, don't worry, Nuke assured him, but Isaiah shook his head.
They got what they deserved. Our journey must continue. It will be dark soon.
In agreement, the gang set off roughly in the direction of Shobutai. The featureless dunes made navigation hard, but they picked up the trail of the caravan, and once they got a little closer they saw the ancient ruins Azumi had spoken of, sticking out of the desert all around the little walled town in the distance. The gate guards grunted when Nuke said he was Prince of the Empire and demanded entry, and with that they were all finally safe again. As safe as you can ever be in the United Cities. Shobutai wasn't beset with skimmers, so it had that going for it, too far from their rocky layers on the desert's fringes. You might think then that this place should have been the capital rather than the bloodbath that was Heft. Well, as we all know, Heft was the centre of the civilized world, and Shobutai was... uncivilized isn't a strong enough word for it really, as Nuke and company were soon to discover.